In Civ 6 or Civilization 6, secret societies are a nice topping to your Civ 6 Sunday. They can be a small inconsequential buff or so game-breaking that they'd make Babylon blush. So now the question that has evaded the philosophers for centuries. When should you pick each secret society in Civilization 6, and where would I rank them on this tier list? Starting with the Sanguine Pact, this succubus-filled cult is based around those vampires. They suck the soul right out of their victims, absorbing all their strength and powers, and they have the base strength of your strongest military unit. You can get this secret society by taking out a barb camp, so they are one of the more likely ones to start the game off with, and you get a free vampire every level, and from level 2 onwards, you can start constructing vampire castles. Like Nike shoes and Asian sweatshops, you'll want to build these at any cost, as they give you every yield from each adjacent tile, including districts. So if you have 3 plus 10 campuses around, it'll give you 30 science directly to your capital. They aren't workable, but they are essentially free yields for your capital city you don't need to waste a population point on, allowing you to have one large super city as you can have up to 4 of these bad boys at once. The vampires also get bonuses at the 3rd level, letting them pillage for just 1 move cost, and reducing nearby enemy combat strength by -5. The pillage might not seem so strong, but in a domination game you can pillage, heal, and then attack the city or even other units for more combat strength. The vampire is limited on how many barbs it can absorb, limiting it to 10 combat strength, so after killing 10 barbs, I guess the blood just doesn't hit the same, and your vampire will only want civ or city-state units to continue increasing its combat strength. With other civs in Civilization 6, though, the number is unlimited. Get stronger than a giant death robot if you want. As long as there is civilized units to kill, there is no limit to how strong vampires can get, with no cap to its combat strength. The best thing about the vampire, though, is that like Queen Elizabeth, they just won't die, and are essentially immortal. It doesn't matter how badly they get smashed, they will always return to your capital city at 1 HP, letting you heal them back up before throwing them into another pointless conflict you're engaged in. Finally, the bad thing. Vampires heal at a -5 reduced rate, meaning they will heal 5 HP slower than other units, and thus will struggle to heal after they get damaged. This only really limits them, because after a while, especially if you're at war all the time, these guys are going to be so far ahead in combat strength that they'll be able to one-shot anything without even worrying about needing to heal. An absolutely broken unit with a broken improvement, but when should you go for the Sanguine Pact? There are 2 main reasons or games you would want the Secret Society over the others, and that is 1 in domination victories, or 2 when you want a high-yield game, like if your capital sucks, or you need to rely on your capital more because your other cities suck. But it's mainly used for domination purposes, as when going for more peaceful methods, unless you have some godly vampire castle locations, there are just better options for secret societies in Civilization 6. I'm gonna get this out of the way immediately. The Hermetic Order in Civilization 6 is like Season 8 of Game of Thrones out of all secret societies. It's absolutely awful, and for your sanity, avoid this atrocity at all costs. Everything is based around the new Ley Lines resource, which is only available to you if you get blackmailed or forced at gunpoint to pick this terrible secret society. Ley lines spawn randomly. They're super rare, and they give a major adjacency to all specialty districts. This might not seem bad, but they're rarer than a Russian in Kiev, making it almost impossible to find one near your empire. At best, you'll have maybe 1 or 2 in your general vicinity if you're lucky, but they are also unimprovable, so for most of the game until you get to Tier 3, you're just stuck with 1 tile in your empire that's an absolute pain to work. And the worst part? It doesn't get much better. The Tier 2 of the Alchemical Society gives you the Alchemical Society, giving you a university replacement that gives 2 production and some great people points. This is probably the best thing in this entire secret society, as the Alchemical University replacement isn't that bad. But the problem is they are so expensive to build in an already expensive building in the university itself that it's going to be a race between the Alchemical Society and GTA 6 on which one gets finished first. Now, after Tier 3, the ley lines get good, if you had any. Theoretically, each great person earned gives you +1 yield on the ley line of their respective yields. Great generals and admirals give science. If you get bestowed upon by the grace of Sid Meier himself and get 4 to 5 ley lines, then fine, it can be great. Still not as good as the other secret societies, but at least you have a good bonus. But most of the time, the ley lines are going to be so rare that at best, you'll have one really strong tile to work, not as strong as the Vampire Castle, mind you. That takes until about turn 200 to get good. And finally, we got Tier 4 Occult Research, a project giving you gold, great people points, and science for every ley line in your... Oh my god. As you can see, the only people who want to go the secret society have near permanent residence in Las Vegas. This secret society is such a gamble with such a low rate of success, and even then it's barely passable as any of the other secret societies are just better, even with Hermetic Order at its best, unless you get insanely lucky and get like 10 of them or something. This is the one secret society that you should probably avoid if you're tryharding in Civilization 6, although what you could do, I guess, is you could go Hermetic Order, see how many ley lines are nearby, and then reload if you don't like it. And we go from one of the worst secret societies in Civilization 6 to Hammurabi tier of awesomeness. The Voidsingers is at least an A-tier secret society, and one of the best with multiple early game bonuses that make up for the wet noodle given to you in that Tier 4 promotion. The first promotion gives you a new building, and unlike the Alchemical Society, it's a cheap monument. The Old God Obelisk gives you 4 faith and a free Great Work slot. This is massive as it allows you to potentially even get religious settlements on deity if the stars align. But even without that, any civ that has some semblance of bonuses from faith, like Arabia, Ethiopia, Byzantium, or Russia, will want the secret society above all others. The sheer amount of faith from this cheap monument replacement early on will let you dominate the religious wars, letting you swarm the streets with more missionaries and apostles than New York rappers at McDonald's trying to sell their mixtapes. But the real magnum dawn is the chorus/tier 2 promotion, unlocked in the medieval era, literally having me salivate whenever I play a faith civ. Just like you'll have women and men salivating over you after you leave a like and subscribe to immediately start making 6 figures and grow 50 pounds in pure lean muscle. But back to the video, the Tier 2 chorus gives 20% of your faith and converts it to science, culture, and gold. After soddening your panties, this lets you take a massive lead in your game, as 200 faith, for example, turns 40 of all those yields, which is game-changing that early on in the game, considering it'll probably be around sub-turn 100. And it scales extremely well, as with all your Old God Obelisks, as well as religious buildings, temples, shrines, holy sites even, you're looking at potentially hundreds of extra yields in the right situation. And if you find anyone playing Russia with Dance of the Aurora and they don't pick Voidsingers, it's just kill on sight at that point. It's a forgivable offense, and you won't get prosecuted for it, and rightfully so. With Russia, this takes on another level, with Ethiopia being a close second. The bonuses really drop off after this though, as the next promotion gives you cultists, a faith bot unit that can reduce the loyalty of enemy cities, which can be helpful if the enemy city is already losing loyalty, but it's decreasing very slowly. But there is another bonus. After their last charge, the cultists give you unique relics, meaning, along with the obelisk slots, you get this huge amount of yields of not just faith, but culture and tourism as well. And if you're playing the Congo, if you're playing this Morgan Freeman looking ass motherfucker, you will win the game, especially if you're able to get this early enough. The industrial era is probably before turn 200 in most games, so you can spam out cultists, relics, and with T-Poser Redentor, and the consequent blocking of the Enlightenment Civic, the game is essentially over for the AI. The last promotion is pretty useless. It's Dark Summoning, which gives you faith, as well as bonuses to cultist loyalty damage after it's finished. Not useless or anything, but Dark Summoning isn't the best, and the cultists are usually meant for relic gain rather than loyalty reduction, unless you're playing Eleanor. Go for the Secret Society if you're playing a Faith Generation Civ, or a Civ that relies heavily on relics, as the Obelisk alone is worth the investment for Congo and Jadwiga. And finally, last but most definitely not least, we have the Owls of Minerva, a city-state policy card spy-focused SS, sorry Susan, secret society. The first promotion is an absolute banger, giving you an economic policy card along with an envoy every time you send a trade route to a city-state, which is absolutely huge considering economic is the best policy slot in the entire game aside from wildcard. The tier 2 promotion gives you the Gilded Vault, a bank replacement giving the adjacency bonus of your commercial hub to your culture. That's right, in Owl Society, instead of banks fisting students with loans, instead they provide a huge boost to culture after getting the bank turning an average building into a top tier one, especially in science games where you're not really building theater squares as much, and yet you still need culture to pick the silly mustache ideology as well as globalization. The best level is yet to come, though, with Indoctrination being the best possible secret society promotion you can ever get. It gives you 1 wildcard slot, 2 spies, and loyalty and amenities when spies are in your city's territories. The wildcard slot would be more than enough in order to vault the secret society to the top tier, but add in 2 extra spies and this turns into one of the absolute best bonuses you can get in the game, let alone with secret societies. This 1 indoctrination level is better than the entire Hermetic Order tree, although that's like saying you have more chromosomes than a Habsburg. It's not exactly a high bar to surpass. And finally, the master plan, not exactly flaccid penis levels of useless like in Voidsingers Tier 4, but it's nothing more than a mini chub. Whenever you finish an offensive spy mission, you get half of all gold, faith, culture, and science generated by that target city to your empire. Unless your enemy has like New York or Shanghai simulated in Civilization 6, then it isn't going to be particularly useful, especially considering a lot of the time you want spies protecting stuff like spaceports in the late game, but by no means is it useless. The second Tier 4 bonus also gives you 3% of your treasury as interest, but if you're not spending gold, it's really a waste, and so it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Overall, this is the most well-rounded secret society with economic wildcard slots, more spies, and a really strong bank with envoy generation. Go for the secret society when the others don't suit your needs, or when you're going for a non-faith-based science victory. Before we end off this video with the rankings, comment down below where you would rank each secret society, and some other things I might have missed about each one. And now for the tier list. Every secret society has its advantages, and there is no way to truly rank each one objectively, as each game is different. It's Owls of Minerva in the S tier, Voidsingers and Vampires in the A tier, and then Hermetic Order all the way in the F tier. Owls is the most well-rounded and the best by far in most situations, as the others really have 1 or 2 factors you need to consider to pick them. Voidsingers come second because their bonuses in a faith game are way better than what Vampires can normally give you. However, Vampires also get a unique unit that is unkillable and scales extremely well in the late game, leaving them in the same tier, although not as good. And if you ever get another pandemic and everyone runs to the toilet paper section again, or you end up dating Amber Heard, you'll at least have the Hermetic Order for all your excrement removal needs.